The Fatal Frame series is basically a bunch of folks doing their best to fight against hell itself, inevitably failing, and then waiting for some young woman to show up decades later with a camera and photo shoot them out of their mess. In most cases, it's not even like they went out of their way to mess up. Things just kinda happened, and next thing you know, everyone is dead in progressively horrifying ways. But this guy right here, Kurosawa Ryokan, the Ceremony Master, or the High Priest, or the Ritual Host, depending on which game and translation you're playing with. This guy got dealt one of the shittiest hands known to mankind and still did his best to aura max it like he was posing for early 1900s social media. Hell was laughing right in his face, with a palm to his forehead, and he looked it right back in the eye while still trying to kick it in the tenderloins. This guy went through hell and back, pretty much literally, to save his village, and still ended up being destroyed by his own creations. So, this week, let's dive into the horrifying story behind one of Fatal Frame's most badass characters, Kurosawa Ryokan. If you've watched my Fatal Frame timeline videos, then you'll know the exact dates for past events can be, to put it kindly, a little fuzzy. I recommend you watch those if you want to know more about the mathematical details you have to go into to narrow things down, but given what we know, it's likely Ryokan was born in Minakami village sometime in the 1860s or so. He was born a twin to the powerful Kurosawa family that ran the village. But despite being born after his brother, he was considered the elder by the village's customs. Being born a twin in Minakami often comes with a steep price. At some point, you may be tasked with choking your sibling to death to sate the gate to hell lurking down below. Whoops. Villagers in the area believed twins to be divine beings, a single soul that is split across two bodies. This traumatic yet divine act is said to bring both halves back together, and the energy created in doing so sates the other side for another decade or so until they have to do it all over again. But here's the thing. Once a twin in Minakami has successfully gone through with the Crimson Sacrifice ritual, uniting both halves of their soul, they are left as a remaining. It's hard to imagine the toll it must take on someone to kill their other half, but it's necessary not just for their village, but the area in general to survive. And while the villagers understand this, there is also an inherent fear that comes with it. Twins, already considered divine beings in Minakami, must go down to the hellish abyss itself to carry out this ritual. An area so taboo that people are not allowed to ever see it, nor even speak of it. So, for one to come back from this most taboo of places, after having killed their own sibling, well, most remaining then tend to live out the rest of their lives in near complete isolation. The villagers respect and revere them, but they also greatly fear them. The incredible stress of the act, and the energy that's produced while doing so, often, but not always, turns their hair white, and it can leave them with a mark on their own neck resembling a butterfly as well. A mark symbolizing their soul reuniting and becoming one again. With that in mind, you would think that Ryokan would go on to live a sad, isolated life after taking part in the ritual with his brother. But no. While his hair did indeed turn white, it would appear that the main Kurosawa family did not have any other heirs, and so it was up to Ryokan, as a remaining, to still succeed the household. He not only took part in the ritual himself as a boy, but went on to lead it as head of the Kurosawa family as an adult as well. We're not told when, but at some point, Ryokan got married, and his wife also gave birth to twin daughters, Yae and Sae. However, after realizing that her newborn daughters would likely have to take part in the Crimson Sacrifice ritual sometime in the future, their mother went mad with grief and anguish. Unable to bear the thought of her children having to go through such a painful experience, their mother went down to the hellish abyss and threw herself into it. Ryokan then did his best to raise his daughters alone. He, better than anyone, understood the agony of the ritual, and so he tells us in his notes that he did all he could for the girls so they could live a life of comfort and not feel lonely. He tried to be the best damn single father that he could be. Not only was he a remaining himself, but now he had to oversee the village's affairs, take charge of any necessary rituals, deal with the loss of his wife, and raise his 2 children alone, knowing there was a good chance they might also have to go through the same thing he did as a boy. The man was just built different. Sometime in the early 1900s, we don't know when exactly, but likely before 1910, Ryokan oversaw the Crimson Sacrifice ritual in which brothers Tachibana Itsuki and Mutsuki undertook. Unfortunately for all involved, their ritual failed, and it was this failure that would eventually lead to not just the downfall of their village, but probably the worst few years of Ryokan's already traumatic life as well. With no other suitable twins, Ryokan had to start preparing his own daughters to take part in another ritual a year or so later. This had to be fast-tracked, as the abyss was getting rather grumpy and causing all sorts of disasters, and nearby villagers kept pleading with Ryokan to do something about it. What their mother had feared had come true, and although it pained him greatly, Ryokan simply had no choice. It was his daughters or their entire village. Remember, he had been there himself. No one knew this pain better than him. But while they were preparing for the ritual, 2 outsiders arrived. Makabe Seijiro, a folklorist, and his apprentice, Munakata Ryozo. With the abyss getting angrier by the day, Ryokan realized a gruesome opportunity had presented itself to him. He could carry out the shadow ritual to temporarily appease the abyss and give them a little more time to prepare for Yae and Sae's ritual. Being that the abyss feeds off pain and anguish, you can imagine this isn't a terribly pleasant ritual either. While he was initially open and friendly with Makabe, he soon revealed his true intentions and imprisoned him so they could turn him into a kusabi, a sacrifice to temporarily sate the abyss. But for this sacrifice to be worthwhile, the kusabi has to undergo horrific pain while alive. Basically, they torture him to the brink of death with lots of cutting, and then toss him in the hole leading down to hell. Fun. Now, as horrible as this ritual also is, it was successful. Ryokan managed to buy the village a little more time, but in the end, the odds were still against him. It was Itsuki who summoned his friend Ryozo back to the village to perhaps help Yae and Sae escape after his own ritual failed. Itsuki and Ryozo did their best to help the girls while Ryokan was preparing them for the ritual, and they succeeded in at least getting Yae out. Sae, however, tripped and fell, and was caught before she too could flee. She was brought back to Minakami, but there was no sign of Yae. Ryokan was at a loss. His daughter had run away. He still had to carry out the ritual. Their entire village would be destroyed if he didn't. He pored through the village's texts and found evidence that Sae alone might be able to hold the abyss back for a short period of time, similar to the kusabi, as long as she had been purified first. and so they had no choice but to attempt the ritual with just Sae. They simply couldn't wait any longer. After Sae's body was thrown into the abyss, well, it wasn't enough. Despite everything Ryokan had done, he had failed. Darkness burst out of the abyss, and with it, both Sae and Makabe swept through the village, horrifically killing any and all they came in contact with. One of them was, of course, Ryokan, the man who had killed his own brother, lost his wife, sacrificed an outsider, and then was still forced to sacrifice his own daughters as well, all to keep the other side at bay. And all for naught, as circumstances outside his control continually worked against him, and he too was eventually killed by the darkness. And if we can trust the visuals of the remake, it seems likely that it was Makabe himself who brought Ryokan to his final end, and he made sure to treat him with the same care Ryokan had shown him. On that note, when we come across Ryokan as a hostile ghost in the game, he very much resembles a monk who has undergone self-mummification. This was a process that generally lasted many years, and it involved monks dieting until they lost all body fat, and then reducing liquids to further dehydrate the body, all while meditating and chanting until, hopefully, they found themselves preserved in their mummified state, and achieving a state of a living Buddha. It was an incredibly long and painful process done to achieve enlightenment. Considering what we know of Ryokan's life, it's perhaps no surprise that he, as the head priest of the village, went on to rock this look after death. And even after the repentance claimed the village, the spirit list in Japanese tells us that Ryokan, as a ghost, continued trying to carry out the ritual to protect Minakami. Not even death could keep this man down. And in the remake, he gets an especially sick boss fight that you're best off experiencing for yourself. The man knows how to aura farm, even after everything he's been through. And he did it all for the village. Very few could say they gave as much as he did for Minakami, or were willing to do the awful, dirty work required to keep everyone else safe. And even in death, he never stopped trying. But what did you guys think of this one? Who was your favourite character from the game? Are there any other bits of lore you'd like to see me cover? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.